This review is for the Chapter 2 test that we should be taking tomorrow. The first type of question that you're going to find on your test says, order the numbers in increasing order. That means from smallest to biggest, okay? Now, it does not say that you need to write these on a number line, okay? So you don't have to do that. Now, if that will help you order the numbers in the number line, or if that will help you write them in increasing order, go for it. That's fine for you to draw a number line. But what I like to do when they're decimals is I like to think about them as money, okay? So let's go through and let's make these decimals as if I were talking about money. Well, we have 4.66, which would be the same thing as $4.66. But then we have 0.7. What would 0.7 be as a dollar value? Clay?
70 cents.
Very good, 70 cents. You say, wait a second, why isn't it 7? Because that would be 0.07, okay? So 4.6 is the same as $4.60. Negative 1.8 is the same as negative 180. 3 is $3. We don't need to do any decimals. And 0.66 is like 66 cents. Now, on this one, maybe it won't help all that much, but it definitely will help when we get ready to choose which one of these is bigger and which one is smaller. So, if we're going to start with our smallest number, because that's what increasing order means, let's find any negative values, because we know that negative is smallest. And how do I know which one of these negative values is smaller? Alex?
The larger negative number will be the smaller.
Very good. The bigger the number is when it's negative, the smaller it is. So which one of these is my least number? Madison? Negative 1.8. Very good. I like to cross it off once I do it, just so that I don't get confused and I don't think, oh, did I use that? So then it's done. Now, what's my next number? Clay?
Negative 0.66.
Very good. Now, what's my next number? We moved into the positive. Naomi?
0.7.
Very good, 0.7. What's my next number? Madison? 3. Next number. Alex?
4.6.
Very good, 4.6. And then last but not least, my biggest number is 4.66. Now, what normally happens there is people see 4.6 and 4.66 and they're like, how do I know which one's bigger? That's when the money trick comes in handy, okay? Well, which one has more money, $4.60 or $4.66? Just makes it a little bit easier, I think, okay? There is one problem like this on your test, so it's worth 4 points. Now, the next few types of problems, they're actually going to be numbers 2 through 6 on your test, okay? They're going to be worth 4 points. So there's 5 of those questions. So this section is worth 20 points on your test. And what they want us to do is they just want us to evaluate or solve. Now, some of these problems are addition, some subtraction, some multiplication. I've got to know the rules for positive and negative numbers doing all 3 of those. First of all, same signs. What's the deal? Add and keep. Very good. Different signs. Subtract and take. Very good. Now, when I'm multiplying, if I have an odd amount of negative signs, what's my answer? Negative. If I have an even amount of negative signs, my answer is positive. Very good. Now, look right here at this first problem. What do you see that you know we've got to take care of? Clay?
Need to change it from negative to positive.
What am I going to change from negative to positive?
The subtraction.
But there's a lot of subtraction signs here. I see one in front of the 19, one in between 19 and 26.
Addition, because you have to add them together to survive negatives.
Okay, well, what does this double negative mean I have to do? Change it to addition. Now, because a double negative always means addition. But look what that does to their signs. They went from having the same signs to now they have what, Jacob?
Negative 19 plus 26 equals 7.
What kind of 7? Positive or negative? Positive, okay? Because they have different signs, so I subtract and take. Look at this next problem. What type of operation am I doing? Addition, subtraction, or multiplication? Multiplication. Those parentheses tell me that I multiply. So let's count up how many negative signs that I have. So I have one negative sign, so I know that my answer is going to be negative. What's 2? Now I can just multiply because I don't even have to worry about it. So what's 2 times 3? 6. What's 6 times 5? 30. So my answer is negative 30. Now on this next one, what am I going to do? What operation? Multiplication. How many negative signs do I have? 2. So my answer is going to be positive. 6 times 10 is 60. Okay, now on this next problem, we've got more than 2 terms that are being added or subtracted. So I need to go through and let's just do 2 at a time. So let's do the first 2. Negative 9 plus negative 6. Do they have the same signs or do they have different signs? Same. So I'm going to add and keep. 9 plus 6 is 15. Keep the sign which they both have, which is negative. Negative 15 plus 3 is negative 12. They have different signs, so I subtract and take. The next section that we have on your test is they're going to have us evaluate or solve whenever we have a variable in the problem. But what they've done is they've given us what that variable equals. Some of these problems have absolute value bars in them, and some of them have exponents. So we're going to need to remember what we learned in Chapter 1, which was order of operations, in order to solve these type of problems. There are 4 of these type of problems on your test. I'm sorry, there are 7 of these type of problems on your test. So there are 4 points apiece, so this section is worth 28 points. Yes, number 7 through 13. 7 through 13. Okay? All right, so let's plug in our x, or our value for x, into the problem. So we've got, what are these bars right here? Absolute value bars. So we need to make sure we remember what those mean. So we have the absolute value of negative 45 minus 3 times, I know that x is equal to 3, plus 2. Now, anytime you see absolute value bars in your problem and you can take care of them first, that is what I want you to do. It will make your process much easier if you go ahead and do that first. So what is the absolute value of negative 45? Positive 45. Once you do the absolute value, you drop the bars. You never keep them around the number. So you have 45 minus 3 times 3 plus 2. Now this is where your order of operations comes in. What am I going to do first? Am I going to do 45 minus 3, or am I going to do multiplication? Multiplication. And I'm going to multiply negative 3 times positive 3, which gives me negative 9. So I have 45 minus 9 plus 2. Then I just follow my left to right rule. What's 45 minus 9?
36.
36. 36 plus 2 is?
38.
38. Here's my final answer. Now, I want you to pay close attention to this next type of problem because there is one very similar to this on your test. Are you allowed to use calculators on the test? No, you will not. And so you say, why did you give me a fraction to multiply when I'm not allowed to use a calculator? Well, first of all, you can do it in your brain. Second of all, it's very simple how it's going to work out. Okay, but every year on this test, people get to this question and it's like they get thrown for a loop because they're not exactly sure what to do. So I'm going to show you exactly what you do so that you're ready for tomorrow. Okay, so we've got the absolute value of 5 times, we know that x is 2 over 5, plus 2. Now remember, in the problem right before it, I said if we can take care of the absolute value bars first, let's do that because it'll make it easier. But in this case, I really can't take care of the absolute value bars first because there's stuff inside of those bars that I have to do. I can't say, oh, the absolute value is going to be whatever. I don't know what it is yet, so I need to multiply. So what is 5 times 2 over 5? Well, let's think about it. Let's change 5 to a fraction. Do you see anything that I can do here before I multiply to make my process easier, Madison?
You can cross out both sides and replace it with 1.
Exactly. I say, oh, look, there's a common number that goes into 5, and it's 5. 5 goes into 5 one time, 5 goes into 5 one time. Well, now, what's 1 over 1 times 2 over 1? 2. So I have the absolute value of 2 plus 2. Look how simple that is. Okay? What's 2 plus 2?
4.
Don't forget about your absolute value bars. And what's the absolute value of 4? 4. There's our final answer. Okay. Now this next one. I don't have any absolute value bars, but I do have exponents, so I'm going to need to keep in mind those. So I have 2 times 5 squared minus negative 3 times 5. Now think about order of operations. Order of operations says that I do what first, Darius? Parentheses. And look, we've actually got something inside of parentheses that we need to do. So what is negative 3 times 5? Negative 15. So I have 2 times 5 squared minus negative 15. We did parentheses. What comes next, Javen?
We do exponents.
Exponents. 5 squared is
25.
25. So I have 2 times 25 minus negative 15. Now we took care of exponents. What comes next? Clay? Multiplication. What's 2 times 25? 50 minus negative 15. What do you see that we definitely need to take care of, Bombnet?
You make the thing into a plus sign.
Okay, we make the thing into a plus sign. She means the double negative into a plus sign, which is perfect. And 50 plus 15 is 65. Again, this is a very large section on your test, okay? Make sure you understand how to do these problems. Okay, the next type of problems that we have say apply the distributive property, then simplify by combining like terms. As I was grading the quizzes that you all took, there were some problems on this part. And so what I did for the test is I switched up the instructions to be more specific. The instructions on the test say, apply the distributive property, then simplify by combining like terms. Okay? What do you think you need to do first? Distributive property. On the quiz, a lot of people tried to combine like terms and then multiply. Well, you can't do that because combine like terms is either addition or subtraction, and distributive property is multiplication. That's not in order of operations. Everything follows order of operations, okay? So, on this first one here, what am I going to distribute, Darius?
5 times negative 3.
Okay, so we're going to take this negative 3 and we are going to distribute it. Are we just going to distribute it to 5x? Also to the 6. Very good. Remember, distributive property says whatever I do to one term, I've got to do to every term in the parentheses. So negative 3 times 5x is negative 15x. What's negative 3 times 6? Negative 18. Then on the end, I just tack along my plus x. Now, what is the number in front of plus x? 1. Very good. I don't see it, but I know it's there. Now, the second part of the instruction says, then simplify by combining like terms. Well, I've got to identify the like terms. What are the like terms?
Negative 15x and 1x.
Very good. Negative 15x and positive 1x. And what makes them like terms? What do they have in common? The x, okay? So same signs or different signs? Different. Negative and a positive, so I subtract and I get 14. And is it going to be a positive 14 or negative? Negative. And they had in common the x. So what is my new variable going to be?
X to the second power.
Just x. Very good. It's not a new. Whatever stays or whatever is their like term is what has to stay in the answer. Okay? Now, what about that negative 18? It just tags onto the back because there's not any like terms for him to combine with. And I can't say, oh, negative 14 and negative 18. That gives me negative 32 because it doesn't work like that. Okay? They're not like terms. So this is my final answer. All right, Stephanie, what am I going to distribute in the next problem?
4.
The 4. And the 4 has to be multiplied by the 2, which is?
8.
And what's 4 times negative a?
Negative 4.
Very good. And then I have minus a. What is the number in front of minus a? 1. Do I have like terms here? Yes. Do they have the same signs or different? Same. So I add 4 plus 1 is?
Negative 5.
Negative 5a. And then what happens to the 8? We put it in the back, but what is 8, positive or negative? Positive, so I want to put plus 8. Now, if you wanted to write 8 minus 5a, that would be okay. That would be a correct answer. However, the correct form when writing terms like this is to always write the variable, the term with the variable first and the constant at the end.
So you're going to count them off?
Now, this next problem is very, very similar to the one that I gave you on the quiz. So, what I had a lot of people do on the quiz is they looked at this problem right here and they said, oh, like terms. I'm going to add those together and get 15x. Remember, that's why I switched up the directions, because you do not add before you do distributive property, because distributive property is multiplication. So that's why I said you apply the distributive property. So I've got to figure out where's my distributive property and what am I distributing. Amanda, what am I going to distribute here?
2x.
The 2x. It has to be distributed to both of these terms. Now watch what's going to happen. I'm just going to bring down my 13x because I know it needs to be written. And then I say, what's 2x times x?
2x.
2x squared. What's 2x times 2?
4x.
Now, are these like terms anymore? No. So they're no longer like terms because of that distributive property. So now what I'm going to do is find my like terms. What are my like terms? 13x and 4x, which add to give me 17x. And then what am I going to do with 2x squared?
Plus 2x.
Very good. We just tack it on to the end. Now, technically, if we were writing this in standard form, it would need to be written like this. But for this test, I will not take off if you don't write it in standard form because we haven't gotten to that section just yet. All right, so the next type of problems that we have, there are 4 of them on your test. These are numbers 19 through 22, and they want us to simplify the expression. Some of these we're going to have to do our KFC, keep, flip, change. Some of them we can just simplify by using division. So the first type, there's actually 2, just like this type of problem. So am I ever allowed to divide by a fraction? Is that a possibility? No. So we use KFC, and I keep. What am I keeping? 4x over 3. What am I flipping? It becomes 15 over negative 12. And what am I changing? Very good. Division to multiplication. Now, before we get started, before we even multiply, is there anything that I can simplify here? Madison?
The 3 and the 15.
The 3 and the 15. What number goes into both 3 and 15? 3. 3 goes into 3 1 time. 3 goes into 15 5 times. What about anything else? The 4 and 12. What number goes into both 4 and 12? 4. Now, this is what you've got to keep in mind. What does that 4 have with it? An x. So when I simplify, I say, okay, 4 goes into 4 1 time, but don't forget to write the x with it because you may forget about it. That's what I found what happened on the quiz is people forgot about the variable. Then, how many times does 4 go into 12? 3. And don't forget the negative sign because if 12 started out negative, it's going to have to remain negative. So then I just multiply straight across. What's 1x times 5? What is 1 times negative 3? Now, if you want to keep your answer just like that, that is fine with me. I would actually prefer it like that. But if you want to change it to a mixed number, don't forget about your variable. Don't forget about your negative sign. So we say, how many times can 3 go into 5? 1. And I put my negative sign out front, negative 1, and 2/3. But don't forget about the x. It has to stay up top. So either one of these answers is an acceptable answer. Now, the next type of problem, there's 2 of those also, okay? I want you to think about it like this, because there was one like this on your quiz, and then there was another type on your quiz that you could actually do the work for. Can I subtract 25x minus 10? No, they're not like terms. That's why I say, okay, now I can divide each of these by 5. If those were like terms, I would do that first and then just divide your one term by 5. But because they're not, that's why I divide both of them. What is 25x divided by 5? What's negative 10 divided by 5?
Negative 2.
Can I combine 5x minus 2? They're not like terms, so this is my final answer. Okay. Now the next type of problems on your test are the matrices. There are 2 of these on your test, numbers 23 and 24. So what we need to do when we have matrices is we need to ask ourselves, can we even add or subtract these? Is it a possibility? In this case, is it a possibility? Yes, it is. So, okay, I move forward. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a matrix that has exactly what numbers get added with what. Now, how do I know that I'm adding? Because of this little plus sign right here. So I say 4 plus, what's 4 being added to? Negative 9. Then I have 3 plus what? 6. Then I have negative 3 plus what? Negative 3. Then 5 plus negative 5, 2 plus 10, and negative 10 plus 15. And then I just use my adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers rule. Same signs adding, keep, different signs subtract and take. So 4 and negative 9, are those same signs or different signs? Different, so I subtract. 9 minus 4 is 5. And is 5 going to be positive or negative? Negative. 3 plus 6 is 9. Negative 3 plus negative 3. Are those same signs or are they different? Same. Even though there's a plus sign in between them, don't worry about it. Still same. So we add 6 and we keep our negative sign. Now, what's negative 5 plus positive 5? 0. 2 plus 10 is 12. And negative 10 plus 15 is 5. And that's your final answer. Okay? And last but not least, on your test, number 25, they want you to create an X and Y chart for this equation. The values that they told us they wanted us to use for X are negative 2 to positive 1. So I'm going to go ahead and make my X and Y table. Now, look at what is in front of the x in the original problem. What's there? A negative sign. Were they just really nice for me and said, or nice to me and said, oh, because the 2 is negative, we're going to go ahead and write the negative sign for you so you don't have to worry about it? No, that is not why that's there. That is there because it is part of the problem. So when I plug in the value that I know x is, the negative sign has to stay there. And then I'm going to say, okay, what is x? Negative 2 minus 9. What does that create in this problem? A double negative, which becomes a positive 2. Now do I have the same signs or different signs? Different. So I subtract and get 7 and take the sign of the bigger number, which is 9. I'm sorry, yeah, negative 9. All right. Next one, let's plug in the negative 1. I keep my negative sign from the original, plug in the negative 1. A double negative means a positive. So now I've got different signs, so I subtract and take the sign of the larger. So that's negative 8. Now, what happens when I plug in a 0? It says negative 0. Is that a possibility? No. Is 0 going to do anything to my problem when I add or subtract it? No. So what I like to do is just cross it out. And what am I left with? Negative 9. That's my answer. And last but not least, 1. Now I've got my negative sign, then I plug in my 1 minus 9. Now do I have same signs or different signs? Same. So I add and keep. And if you notice in your chart, it follows a pattern. That is usually how it will always work out. Okay? Your test is tomorrow, Wednesday, September 24th. So make sure that September 25th. Okay? Make sure that you understand how to do it. I'm sorry, the 24th. Sorry, I had it right the first time.